There are wounds that never heal, not because people don't want them to, but because the world keeps pouring salt into them every single day. Hassan Moradi is a 68-year-old man living in a small house in eastern Tehran. He has a habit of sitting alone, drinking tea at sunset, gazing out at the familiar street he has known his entire life. The neighborhood children call him Aga Hassan Mister, Hassan with a tone that blends respect and warmth. They do not know that the calm man who sits quietly with his tea once carried a rifle, once watched his friends fall, and once wondered whether he would live long enough to return home. His son, Dariush, 28, often sits beside him on such evenings. The two do not talk much, not because they are strangers to each other, but because some things are too vast to be put into words. This is the story of those two men, of the two wars they have lived through, wars neither of them chose, and wars neither of them won, and of the moment when they finally spoke the things that needed to be said. Underscore, 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 underscore. Chapter 1. Autumn, 1980. When a nation calls the name of a young man. In November 1980, Hassan Moradi received his draft notice on a Tuesday morning. He remembers that day clearly, not because it was special in a good way, but because painful memories tend to carve themselves deeper than happy ones. That morning, Tehran was slightly cold. The smell of toasted bread from the bakery at the corner still lingered in the air. His mother, Fatimeh, was washing dishes after breakfast when the postman knocked on the door. Hassan was 22 at the time. He had just finished high school, was apprenticing as a bicycle mechanic with his uncle, and had a girlfriend named Nasreen who would slip folded notes into his pocket whenever they met. It was an ordinary life, the kind young people call ordinary, without realizing that it is happiness. The war had begun in September on the 22nd, when Iraqi forces crossed the border into Iran. Hassan remembered hearing the news on the radio. At the time, he thought war is something that happens somewhere else. To someone else. He was wrong. Hassan, I remember my mother didn't say anything when she read the paper. She just placed it on the table, turned back to the sink, and kept washing dishes. I thought she didn't understand. Later, I realized she understood perfectly. She just didn't want to cry in front of me. On the day Hassan left, his father, Akbar, a quiet tailor who had never hugged his son before, pulled him into an embrace and held him for a long time. Hassan closed his eyes and tried to memorize the smell of his father's shirt, the scent of fabric and soap. He didn't know what that meant until he was at the front, surrounded by explosions, and realized that was the smell of home. Hassan's unit was sent to the Khuzestan front in southwestern Iran, where the fiercest battles were taking place. He served as a combat engineer clearing mines, building defenses, repairing roads and bridges under constant shelling. Hassan combat engineer sounds less dangerous than infantry, but in reality, we go first. Mines don't care whether you're infantry or engineer, they just wait for you to step on them. His closest friend in the unit was Karim Hosseini, a young man from the same neighborhood in Tehran. Karim had a wide smile that made his cheeks cramp, as he liked to joke. Every night, no matter how dim the oil lamp or how cold his hands were, Karim would take out a small notebook and write when Hassan asked what he was writing. Karim would smile and say, "Letters to the woman I'll love when I get back. She doesn't know she'll receive them yet, but I'm writing them in advance." In March 1982, on an ordinary morning, Karim stepped forward during a mine-clearing operation and never stepped back. Hassan never described that moment in detail. He only said one sentence, in a flat voice. As if rehearsed so many times, it no longer broke Hassan. I picked up Karim's notebook. There were 47 letters in it, all unsent. I've kept it to this day. underscore 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 underscore. Chapter 2. 8 long years lessons. War teaches that school never does. The Iran-Iraq War lasted 8 years from September 1980 to August 1988. 8 years is long enough for a 22-year-old to become a 30-year-old man without knowing where his youth went. Hassan survived through luck, discipline, and perhaps something people call fate. He was lightly wounded twice, once by shrapnel in his shoulder, once by the shock wave of an explosion that left him temporarily deaf. These wounds did not threaten his life, but there were other wounds that left no scars on the skin and took much longer to heal. During those 8 years, Hassan learned how to sleep with gunfire, how to eat in the dark, how not to think about the future, because thinking about the future on the battlefield is a luxury not everyone can afford. He lived one day at a time. Every morning he woke up was a day given back to him. Hassan, the strange thing is, in war, you start to appreciate the most ordinary things. A hot meal, a quiet night, a letter from home, things you never noticed before. In 1984, Hassan received news that his father had died of a heart attack. He was not allowed to return for the funeral. Akbar, the quiet tailor who hugged his son only once, died without seeing him again. That night, Hassan sat alone, holding Karim's notebook, reading the unsent letters. For the first time in years, he cried, not for his father, not for Karim, but for everything he had lost without realizing he had it. Underscore 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 underscore. In August 1988, a ceasefire was signed. The war ended. No side truly won. The borders remained nearly the same. Only the human map had changed. Hundreds of thousands were no longer on it. That day, Hassan sat in a trench and looked up at the sky. It was an unusually clear blue, the kind that appears after heavy rain. And Hassan, now 30, once a 22-year-old boy with love notes in his pocket, sat and cried again. Hassan, I didn't cry because the war ended. I cried because I didn't know what I had fought to protect and whether it was worth everything that was lost. That question has stayed with me ever since. Underscore 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 underscore. Chapter 3. The Man Who Returned. Peace does not always mean calm. Hassan returned to Tehran in September 1988. The city was still there, but he felt like he was looking at it through glass. Everything was clear, yet distant. His mother, Fatimeh, stood at the door. She looked older, smaller, but her eyes were the same. This time she cried. Hassan held her and realized she hadn't shrunk, he had changed. Reintegration was not easy. He had insomnia. He startled at sudden noises. He stared out windows without thinking. Today, people call it PTSD. In 1988, Iran, there was no name. People just said, he's a bit strange now. He became a motorbike mechanic. In 1989, he opened a small shop. Hassan, I didn't open it because I loved fixing machines. I needed something to do. If my hands were busy, my mind wouldn't wander. Underscore 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 underscore. In 1991, he married Mariam. Mariam was not extraordinary in appearance, but she had something Hassan needed most: patience. She never asked about the war. not once. They lived a simple life. And in that simplicity, there was quiet beauty. In 1995, their son Dariush was born. Hassan, I had held weapons. I didn't tremble, but when I held my son, my hands shook, because for the first time, I held something I truly feared losing. Underscore, 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 underscore. Chapter 4. Dariush. A child who grew up not knowing his father's past, Dariush grew up knowing little about the war. When he asked, his father avoided the topic. Over time, he understood some doors were not meant to be opened, but he understood his father in other ways through small actions. Dariush loved math, physics, football, and dreamed of the world beyond borders. Dariush, I grew up with the internet. The world had no borders, at least I thought so. In 2013, he entered the University of Tehran. Hassan cried this time from happiness. Underscore, 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 underscore. Chapter 5. When doors close, war without guns can still destroy dreams. Dariush. Graduated with honors and applied for scholarships abroad. He was rejected, not for lack of merit, but because of sanctions and geopolitical restrictions. Dariush. I read the word, however, over and over, not because I didn't understand, but because I didn't want to believe it. That night, Hassan told him about Karim. For the first time, they spoke. Underscore, 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 underscore. Chapter 6. Shadows over the city wall does not need bullets to destroy sanctions devastated their lives. Prices soared. Medicine disappeared. Hassan closed his shop in 2019. Hassan. That shop wasn't just work. It was proof I still mattered. Underscore, 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 underscore. Chapter 7. Another path. When doors close, people learn to look through windows. Dariush adapted. He taught. He learned programming. He built something new. Dariush, when a door closes, a window opens. Underscore, 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 underscore. Chapter 8. The balcony. Some things take 30 years to say one evening. They finally spoke. Hassan, I was wrong. I thought silence protected you. Dariush. You taught me more than words ever could. Underscore, 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 underscore. Chapter 9. Karim's notebook. What is unsaid never truly disappears. Hassan finally read all 47 letters. The last one read, If you are reading this, then you finally exist. I don't know who you are, but I'm glad someone is reading. Don't be sad. I lived a full life, even if it was short. Hassan cried not loudly, but deeply. The next morning, he gave the notebook to Dariush. Dariush, Dad, I love you. Hassan, I've loved you since before you were born. Underscore, 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 underscore. Their story is not about heroes. It is about people. And the quiet choice, every day, to hold on to each other no matter what the world does. War takes many things, Hassan says, but it doesn't take everything unless you let it. He didn't. Neither did his son. And perhaps, in the end, that is the only thing that truly belongs to them.